We've all heard the saying that perfect is the enemy of good. But what does that really mean in our keto world? It's kind of like I'm doing super well on keto, and then one day I eat a chocolate chip cookie, and all of a sudden I'm looking at everything like I'm a big failure, and so I might as well eat junk for the rest of the day. Aiming at perfection is stopping us from achieving our health goals.
So by the end of that video, you're gonna end up with some great tips to prevent perfectionism from like controlling your life.
Hello, Unswearers. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health Moments with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet.
And I'm Pat. Okay, so remember like a couple weeks ago, I was still working at home when you arrive home, and I was probably contemplating my long list of to do, and I was telling you how like it was like almost like scary to tackle it, and in those situations I was like the TV was more appealing than tackling my damn to-do list, and I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything on that list.
Yeah, I think that's when we were talking about this whole idea of like when we try to make everything perfect, we don't get anything done, which is what I thought was happening for you, where every one of the things on the list was kind of important
Yeah.
and you didn't know where to start.
Yeah, they were like we tackled this idea of important, urgent, like in the past. But yeah, most of them are important. So I think I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in that sense.
So this kind of thing can affect us when we're talking about our lives in general, not just about work. And when it comes to living a healthy ketogenic lifestyle, one of the places that I see this play itself out a little bit is like, let's say I'm single and I want to be dating, but then I kind of give myself this perfection idea that, well, I can't really start dating until I lose the weight. And since I'm doing keto, and so now like rather than find the person that might match you today, I'm putting my entire relationship world on hold until I looked perfect to then try to find the person who might match me. And I can just imagine how that adds a bunch of other problems, because if I'm looking perfect now, who am I looking for to be in my, and am I focused on personality match at that point? Or am I focused on look match at that point? And all the problems that could come from that.
Yeah, because I feel like it's probably brings a level of insecurity, like
We
like,
are so insecure when we're overweight just to begin with.
Okay.
But then like there's this, if I lose the weight and then now I'm in the dating world, part of it could be if I'm still insecure, maybe I'm making it all about how I look.
Okay.
And I'm not paying enough attention to, do I really match this person? Flip side of the coin, I might now have all this confidence and be looking for a hunk to be with, or on the male world you're looking for some arm candy, and it's like, but is that really what a relationship is about? Like, you're talking about spending the rest of your life with it. So that whole perfection idea often takes us down a path where we're not getting what's going to be better for us long term.
I remember at the beginning of our relationship how, like, talking about that perfectionism idea, when you and your daughter were coming over, I had like to have this perfect meal. Obviously, we're not keto at the time, but like I was cooking something and making a dessert, and everything needed to be perfect. Whereas like when you girls were coming, but at the time I didn't really know that, or like didn't want to accept it. I don't know. You didn't really care about like a good meal. Like you wanted, like, you even at that time your fun was not like with food. And me, like, totally fun was with what was food. Like if I wanted to have a good time, like even with friends, like food needed to be there and enjoyable too.
I do remember that, because we would come over and a good portion of the weekend would have been you cooking the meal and and you spend hours in the kitchen, and I'm just like, what's happening?
And your daughter taking 2 bites and I don't like it.
Not only, well, even if she did like it, she didn't eat that much at the time. And like, I remember you would ask me like, so how was the meal? And I was just like, yeah, it was fine. It was like, and I remember my classic line. I remember my classic line. You cook it, I eat it. That's how this works.
Yeah. Took me a few years to realize.
I just hate cooking that much. It's like, you cook it, I eat it. That's how this works. It doesn't matter if I like it or not.
Yeah. But you have to adjust. Like it honestly took me a few years to realize that you girls would find with less, still like good food and like palatable, but not as elaborated I used to do at the beginning. But now we're keto, like it's more, it's even like way more simpler or simplest like now than it was before. But like yeah, that was some like couple of rough years for me.
I think another idea that comes up a lot is this idea that you can't do keto unless you're doing grass fed, organic. Like everything has to, the food. So going back to what you just said, like the food needs to be perfect, but not because it looks so pretty. The food has to be perfect because you need to buy the perfect food in order to build the perfect body to get into ketosis perfectly. And wow, like so many people that I know for sure I've spoken to who just didn't start keto because they can't afford it,
Mm.
or they didn't start keto because they don't know how to cook meals only using the right ingredient. And it's just like the right ingredients.
Mhm.
Leave the
Yeah.
carbohydrates off the plate, and you're doing keto. But it's such a hard thing to put your mind around if you're thinking that something needs to look perfect.
Another example, how many of us, well, even me at the beginning, like you can't receive friends, you can't receive family because your house, your apartment looks like not in order. That's another example of perfectionism. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna prevent like yourself from having a good time because something doesn't look right.
right. Because
Mm.
people are going to judge me. You're
Okay,
going to judge me if I don't have my house in order.
it's true.
If your friends are coming over to see that your house is in order, are they really your friends?
Mm.
Like I know when I go to my friend's house, I couldn't care. I mean, unless there's a smell that's knocking me at the door,
Mm.
I couldn't care less. Like if there's some dishes in the dish in the sink, or if there's some clothes you didn't finish folding. Like I have clothes at home that I didn't finish folding. Like I don't see the big deal, but we get into this idea that people are going to judge us.
That's a good point because I'm coming back to the example of cooking the perfect meal. I think it was part of the like, there was part of me that I think wanted to impress you,
Okay.
but like but if what is she gonna think if like it tastes bad or if like yeah.
I don't know what I would have thought if it tasted bad, but because you're a good cook, so we
Yeah.
didn't have to go there.
Yeah, indeed. So coming back to the idea at hand, like is perfect the enemy of good? Are we aiming too much for perfect and not enough for just like good enough? I know I realized like when we had that conversation that I just need to tackle the things and I did put that in practice this week where my boss was expecting a document from me and like I was like I thought about it like it doesn't need to be perfect, the information needs to be there, so did the PowerPoint 3-4 slides, gave it to him, and I got like a good hey, good job Pat for that document, like it was like what I expected to like
Exactly what he was looking for.
exactly what he was looking for, yeah.
And I feel like that's what's interesting is that when we keep our mind focused on it has to be perfect, we forget the part where that if it's done, that's better than it being perfect, right? It's complete. If I need to improve it, so I can always go back and add to something that I've completed, right? I can, I mean, depending on what stage of it is. If I've delivered it to a client, I can't necessarily touch it anymore. But if I'm working on something, rather than not start it because it needs to be perfect right away, if I start it and get it moving and get it in action, and then slowly over time improve it, I can end up with something that's really good. It's never going to be perfect, people. Like this is the part that's so hard for us to understand. It's never going to be perfect because no matter how great you make it, you're always going to see something else that you could do better.
Hmm.
It's the nature of us being human and being able to see where
Perfection
I
doesn't
can
exist, yeah.
always improve. And even when we're talking about ourselves, that's another thing I want to point out. Like, I think I'm pretty great, but I can be better, right? And it's normal that I'm seeing myself like that because for all the things I've improved over the last 3 years, there's still more that I can improve. For all the things that I've improved in my practice of 20 some odd years, there's still more that I can improve, right? I
Mhm.
can always learn something else, a new technique, a new, right? So when we try to be perfect, we actually block ourselves from allowing ourselves to learn. There's the other thing, because if it's perfect, there's nothing to do,
It's true.
right?
Mm.
I create this perfect body, let's
Mm.
say, and then so that's it. I don't do anything else. Well, no, I still need to
Oh,
work
of
out.
course.
I still need to
You
like
go
so.
back to carbs.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But the truth is
Mm.
that when you create the body that you actually wanted, what's going to happen is that there's more to learn, there's more to understand. Like, and so I had lost the weight, night chains,
Mm.
lectins, right?
Yeah,
Like, what happens when I have a few extra carbs? Like all these things start to show themselves, and there's always more to learn.
yeah. So that's important. Like that brings the idea back to keto, to your diet. Like don't wait for everything to or like to be perfect or find the perfect food or know all the answers. Just like jump in, eliminate the carbs, and anyway your body is gonna change. You're gonna react differently to some stuff like you're talking about in that shade. So yeah, like you jump in and you fix the path along the way, basically.
And that's part of where I want to make sure people understand that it's so important to always be doing more research and learning and whatever. Because yes, I agree with you. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Start. But the flip side of the coin is be careful that you have good information when you're going to start. So good, again, good information, not perfect information, but good information. If I've got, and this is where again, am I trying to do what's better for me, or am I trying to do sometimes what's easy? If I've got 7 keto friendly doctors saying what you need to do is take your carbohydrates down to 20, and I've got one keto talking person who's not a doctor, this is how I did it, and they're saying, oh, I ate 70 grams of carbs, who am I listening to? Right? It's not about perfect, it's about the quality of the information as well. Make sure that the quality of the information that you're going to follow is in line with what you're trying to achieve, right? Because yeah, that one keto person that did it at 70, first of all, did they really do it at 70? But second of all, is their body the same as your body?
Coming back to the idea of the quality of the information, what would we give the wellness warriors out there, like how to make sure the information is quality? Like you have doctors, you have other people doing some other kind of information. Is it just like putting it all together and try to make the best of it, or?
So here's what's interesting. For the longest time, I believed that fruit was healthy because my doctor, every nutritionist, right? Like it was coming from somewhere. It wasn't just one person that told me fruit is healthy, right? It was so many doctors and nutritionists saying fruit is healthy. What's interesting though is that when the other doctors came forward and started saying, "Hey, Violet, nah, like it's not as healthy," they had to show me. And how did they show me? The research. Why I want people to think about the quality of information that you're getting is that question it, right? And I always tell you, when I tell you something, don't take my word for it. Go and find the other keto doctors that are talking about this and verify, is what Violet's saying right now in line with what these doctors are saying? Because that's what I'm doing. I'm learning stuff and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. And then I'm coming and telling it to you, and I'm taking their doctor speak and I'm trying to make it in a way that we're going to really be able to resonate and understand that this is the thing that we're trying to do to help ourselves to stay healthy. And I'm giving also the psychological why doing this is going to help you to stay on track. But at the end of the day, it still matters that the basics of the information that I'm telling you hasn't changed. Watch my first video, watch today's video. The basics of the information hasn't changed. So when you have, and what part of the reason that we believed all those doctors who were saying fruit's important and it's healthy and it's good is because that basic information was never changing. It was never varying. Problem is, what they weren't telling us is that we make our own antioxidants. What they weren't telling us is that we produce carbohydrates. We don't actually need to eat them. What they weren't telling us is that, in fact, when you eat meat and you eat nose to tail, so try to get those organ meats in, vitamins are in the organ meats. So the things that they weren't telling us, and it wasn't based on them not knowing. Truthfully, wellness warriors, what I've come to understand from talking to some of the doctors that I've talked to, they weren't telling us because the average everyday person is not willing to put energy into their health until they're dying. And they weren't telling us because they didn't believe that if we knew this information, we would actually use it to our benefit. How many times have you known people, cancer, still smoking, cancer, still drinking, cancer? And the truth is, we're in the same similar situation. We are addicted to carbohydrates, and it's hard to stop eating them. Not impossible, right? We don't have to be perfect. We just need to know it's important to do and work on it. And if we work on it every day, you get better and better at it, which is kind of the whole point of what we're talking about today, right? Instead of aiming at the perfect, I never touch extra carbs, aim at doing it properly. And if I aim at doing it properly every day, Violet, at the very beginning, well, I jumped in pretty hard, but Violet at the very beginning, there were still times where I must have gone over my carb count. I know I did, actually. There were times where I had potato. There were times where right? Why? Because didn't know better, didn't believe, didn't whatever, still testing. But over time, make enough mistakes.
Still researching, actually.
Exactly. The more you do your research, the more you test things, the more you start to realize, guess what? This really works. And you learn more. Nightshades, good example.
Okay, so if we want to solve this, how do we proceed? What do we do? Like, if we don't want to aim for perfect, is there like
I think the most important thing to understand, so part one, do it.
Okay.
Like, whatever the thing is like you're trying to make it perfect, but then it's not being done at all. So just start. Do it. Whatever the thing is, just start working on it.
In my work, we often refer to that as the minimum viable product. So whenever a client comes to us and want a new software, a new system, a new solution, we instead of aiming for perfect, we just start it and we do loops. So the same goes like with every areas to your life. Like you have a minimum viable product, and you just like actually start. So same goes for keto. Like, don't try to have, like we said, everything perfect. Just like start with the basic stuff and add more rules, more restriction, or more possibilities even as you go along.
And I think that's great, because if you think about keto as the example, having a piece of meat on your plate, and if I don't know what else can go with that, I can just eat that piece of meat and I know I'm in ketosis because there was no carbohydrates there. I can have eggs and only have eggs, and I know that I'm in ketosis because there was no carbohydrates there. The minimum viable product is carnivore in that case, right? You just have some meat, and I didn't touch any carbs today.
True.
Right?
True.
And then
Good
as you
point.
learn and go along, then you can start adding the veg that makes sense, that you've okay, I know, and making sure I have the right amounts and so that's all. I like that minimum amount of like, how do I make sure that I'm doing the right thing, is start with the thing that I know absolutely is keto.
True.
I love that.
Okay. Second one, I think if you picture yourself already at 70 pounds less in 6 months, you might end up disappointed. It might prevent you from starting anything, because or not maybe not even prevent you from starting it, but like maybe getting off the wagon early in the process. If you don't lose your, like everybody says, oh, I'm losing like 10 pounds in the first week. Like, it's not everybody. So if you always keep your end goal, your end product in mind, you might not even start it. Like, I know at work, my task list, I was like, okay, yeah, I need like 200 slides perfectly. Right? That's what's preventing me to jump and do something.
If I can't take off everything, then I'm not doing anything. Right? And I feel like that's a great one too, because like, obviously, if I know for sure that I'm going to lose, so I know for sure I'm going to lose 70 pounds, and then I'm on a trajectory, and I'm going to lose it by a certain date, by the way. I'm on a just trajectory, I'm saying, oh, I'm not going to accomplish that. Again, I might start to feel like I failed, like this is not working, even though my weight is on the way down. One of the things I remember we talked about at some point, I can't remember when it was, but this whole idea that it took me, seriously, like 10 years-ish to gain the weight, but then the idea that I'm going to lose it in 2 months? Come on. Now, even though I did lose it in 5, like, that was not because I was trying to. That was because I was doing keto appropriately and my body was able to heal. But can you imagine if I went into that thinking, oh, I have to lose it in this, and then I had 1 week that I didn't lose anything? What would have happened to me? I love that. Just make sure that you're focused on doing what you're supposed to do. So doing it the right way, rather. So process is all about process. Am I eating what I'm supposed to eat? Right? And am I giving myself the time for my body to heal the way it's supposed to heal? Process more than the end product.
Yeah. One that could maybe be more applicable for work stuff, or like my task list at work. Set yourself some deadlines. Like, if you evaluate your task, and then you'll help me after to maybe figure it out for keto. But you have your task. say this one I'm gonna spend no more than 2 hours like doing it, and it's gonna end up with the result like that after 2 hours. But if you aim for perfection, you're never gonna end working on a specific task.
The,
So deadlines are kind of important in that.
and the deadlines for keto are actually still there. It's just not about my body. Am I cooking? Where am I going to the groceries?
Oh,
When
okay.
it's about planning your time and your day. It's not necessarily, so it's like understanding that I eat when hungry, but I still need to know what I'm eating. So I still need to have planned it, which means that yesterday I should know what I'm eating today,
Mm.
because I'm eating when hungry. I can't wait till I get hungry to make my meal. I'm going to end up eating the wrong thing. So if I know in advance to plan myself appropriately, and I set deadlines for myself the day before about knowing what's happening tomorrow,
Okay.
then I'm going to be in the right mindset tomorrow. So
Mm.
today, that I make sure that I eat what I'm supposed to eat, and I allow myself the possibility of getting those micro gains, right? So it's not about perfection. It's, oh, I did well today because I did these things that I wanted myself to do. And then I can look at results. How did that play out? And then I can keep doing that.
Yeah, good. Maybe the next one would be importance. We talked about it just in that video a little bit earlier. Importance versus urgency, I
Hmm.
guess. So balance, evaluate, and balance them. Like again, like in all area of your life. For me, at work would be, and like it's a good trick because I never like did that, but like sort out your all your tasks, put them maybe in a matrix where like importance, urgence, and put them and see you're gonna know what you need to tackle like first.
I definitely feel, again, for the keto side of things,
Mm.
that's playing itself out there too, right? If I wait until it's time to eat, now it's urgent and I'm not going to do what's important. But planning it the day before allows me to see what's important. On my plate, what's important is the protein and the fat. The carbohydrates are for fun. We don't need them.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I allow myself to understand that when I'm planning my meal and whatever, I'm planning the important part, the protein and fat that comes along with it. And then I'm saying, okay, so what carbohydrates am I also putting on the plate?
So in that case, the emergency, if you didn't plan it good enough, would probably push you to make less good decision in terms of importance.
Exactly.
If you don't plan in advance, and because like the goal would be when you're hungry, you exactly know what you're gonna eat.
And obviously, the other part of that problem is that if I didn't plan it in advance, so now it's urgent, and then I end up, while I'm making my meal, I end up eating an apple. Oh, the whole thing's messed up, anyways. Might as well have
Yeah.
rice, right? That thing that we do to ourselves, that if it can't be perfect, then it's not worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying our best to understand that it doesn't. It's, first of all, it will never be perfect. So stop trying to have something that doesn't exist, right? Because I could have a pet unicorn too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It still doesn't exist, right?
No.
You know, that my flying monkey from Wizard of Oz, like I have a pet flying. No, none of these things exist. I need to be allowing myself to do what's realistic and gonna give me the results eventually. Because the truth is, if I'm persistent, I will get results eventually.
So in the end, like there's two things I can add to that. Like first of all, time is precious, so it comes back to the deadline we're just like telling about. Uh, Aiming for perfection is costly. It's costly in time. It's costly in effort that like you might be better spending elsewhere.
It's costly and
Yeah. And
anxiety that
anxiety.
we're giving to, like, we're focusing our attention on something
Mm.
that's not ever going to be accomplished. So then we have that negative spin that's happening. So it's costly
Mm.
and anxiety. So many people are get caught up and anxious in trying to make something exact that's never going to be exact.
Yeah. And maybe in the end, people around you don't care that much about you being perfect, about your home being perfect, about your weight being perfect, your look being perfect. So people love you for who you are.
And we know
And
that
that's
for a fact. Like, the truth of the matter is, we all have friends and people around us that love us and care about us and want us to be good and want us to be okay. And we are not perfect.
yeah.
None of us.
So that fear of being judged, like it's all self-inflicted. I don't know if, like we could call it like that, but like yeah, it comes from within, and like we kind of damage ourselves like with that idea of perfection.
The best thing you can do for yourself is understand that putting in a good effort and accomplishing what you can accomplish in this moment based on the information you have at this point in time is the best thing you can do for yourself and for the people around you, right? And if things need to improve, we just work on improving them.
Okay, so guys, if you enjoyed the video, please share it to as many people as possible. That's really appreciated, and it helps our channel.
All right, we probably should like the video too then, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
There's some videos on the screen right there that are going to help you to improve your health.
And they're great.
Wellness Warriors, I love it when you guys come back. Everybody who's new, welcome. I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition.
Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week.